Hello, my name is Lily Wilson, and welcome to my capstone presentation. I do have a laptop over to the right of me where I have all of my talking points, and I'll hopefully be able to put the PowerPoint to the left of me here so you can see what I'm looking at. It's just a couple of talking points, some images of the work that I did, etc. So my name is Lily Wilson. The goals of my capstone were to focus on sustainability and single-use dresses within the fashion industry, focusing on how grad dresses are not a sustainable practice, what we can do to fix that, also something of that sorts. Some of my post-grad options that I have that kind of related to this capstone are applied biology, which is what I'm majoring in at UBC next year in the fall, which focuses on sustainability and environmental impact, all to do with agriculture and like environmental cities, stuff like that. Or I also was considering taking a business degree and then going into something with the fashion industry within that. So my capstone essential question was, how much effort goes into the creation of one single-use grad dress? Is this a sustainable practice? So I met these kind of criteria within my project by sewing my own grad dress and then doing some research on sustainable grad dress options, all that sort of thing. So I'm going to click to the next slide. Okay. So the significance of a good dress. This is kind of going to be like the little bit of the introduction and the sustainability impacts of the grad dresses that I did research on, and then we're going to move into sort of what I did, how I made my grad dress, which you can kind of see right here, but I will bring it into view later, I swear on my life. Okay, so grad dresses are really important because it brings a lot of significance into the moment of graduation. You want to feel pretty and beautiful in your dress, so you want to have a good dress, which is why so much of the time they're so expensive. It's about opening a new chapter and moving out, which is why each dress is so close to the person that buys it. It has to be something that you feel so comfortable in and just truly feels yourself. And you can tell a lot about a person by their grad dress, what color they choose. Is it silky? Did they buy it off of some like online website, or did they go to like Grand Central or something like that in Victoria, where they have thousands of dresses that you can just try on and pick the one you want. There's also a lot of societal and cultural importance of grad dresses. So it's seen as this huge like spectacle of luxury and how beautiful you can look within these, like the concept of your graduation. On to the next slide. I talked about the perfect dress. Is this a myth? So a lot of the time when you're looking for grad dresses, your like social media, what's on the high fashion at the moment is going to impact your selections a lot. Not only in like what you tend to lean towards and what you choose, but also like what's available. A lot of the time, bigger industries such as Grad Central or other online businesses that you buy grad dresses from will try and mirror what the style is at the time, which isn't necessarily always what fits you best. But a lot of the time people end up changing what they wear for their grad dresses because of what's going on fashion-wise on the year. And another thing is a lot of inspiration is drawn from celebrity red carpets, like the Met Gala and everything, which I will talk about in the next slide. So the next slide is called Glamour versus Reality. We don't really think about it, but the amount of clothing that we wear contributes so much to carbon emissions and pollution in landfills. A lot of the time, microplastics can be generated when making clothing, especially with the quality of the clothing that you wear. A lot of the time, more like synthesized fabrics can be way worse for the environment. They can release microplastics. They can take a lot of carbon emissions to create. It's a lot more work, and a lot of dyes that can use are toxic to not only people, but also to just like wildlife. 85% of clothing dumped into landfills or incinerated annually. I have that little statistic. It really makes you think about how much clothing that everyone buys. I know that I definitely have a clothing kind of obsession, and my closet is very full. But I think that's why it's so important to buy secondhand, look into the companies that you're buying from, and just be smart about what you're buying from. Not just going into Shein and just buying every single micro trend that you see because you think that that's what's trendy and cute at the time. Because you know that in like maybe even a couple months, that's not going to be an accurate reflection of who you are and what you want anymore. Another thing is kind of linking into this, unrealistic social media with like hauls, like $100 hauls that people get of thousands of pieces of clothing that they just go through and they're like, I love this, I hate this. And then that's how kind of micro trends are born with what people are buying and how much they're propagating that on the internet. So my next slide is called Who is Even Paying That Much? The better the dress, the higher the cost. So with style complexity linking into this, the amount of lace that you have, etc., will definitely show the expensiveness. Now, this isn't to say that more simplistic dresses aren't as expensive, but they're definitely going to be in the couple of hundreds instead of like 800s. I don't know why it's culturally acceptable to drop hundreds of dollars on stuff that you wear once. Personally, I didn't, obviously, but it's socially accepted generally that formal wear must be expensive. There's this link between, oh, if it's going to be fancy, it has to be nice quality. Nice quality is obviously going to be much more expensive than the little garbage tube top that you're buying off a Shein for 20 bucks. Another thing is formal wear is typically a one-time usage, especially with grad dresses, and then you think that it's worth the investment to buy the better quality for the more special event. But if you're only wearing it once, was it really just a waste of money? Who knows? So the next slide I called is, what even is a sustainable dress? So a lot of the times it's important to look into, like I mentioned earlier, fabric choices. So cottons, linens, other stuff like that is typically going to be a lot more environmentally friendly than other options. A lot of companies also offer repair services and tailoring, which can increase the lifespan of your dress or of other clothing. I know that Lululemon does this with their leggings. If you have like rips in the seams and stuff like that, that's obviously the manufacturer's fault. They will give you a new pair, but you only get like one, I think, per account. Another option is that there are a lot of resale and renting opportunities for grad dresses. A lot of the time people will buy their grad dresses and sell them, and someone else can wear them the next year. And then also slow fashion, buying handmade clothing from smaller businesses, which will probably also be just as expensive, but will generally be much better quality and much more long lasting, even though you're going to wear it like a couple times. So my next slide is called Thrifting is In. So vintage and old glam fashion is really coming in right now. So another thing that you can do is you can thrift older grad dresses. I have a friend who did this actually. She thrifted an older grad dress, tailored it, and it looks just as great as everybody else's, but I think she got it for like a fraction of the price. And it's also thrifting has become a bit of a social media trend, which is honestly great. I'm here for that one. But there are also lots of secondhand benefits, such as more unique pieces, more variety in what kind of grad dresses we get, so we're not just seeing the same styles on every single person. Okay, the next slide is called Shop Like You Mean It. So I listed a couple of different online businesses. These ones are all online that provide very nice, not necessarily handmade, but high quality price pieces for less money. So I listed Reformation, House of CB, and Kowtow. And then I also talked about a couple of renting dresses options, locally only, like After 5 and Once Twice. So how to be an outfit repeater. It's so much easier to rewear your older dresses when you're doing this. So repurposing, wearing your mom's old grad dress, or so many different options that you can have to sort of spend less money, but also be more environmentally conscious. Sorry, I got like a piece of hair. You can also get your own grad dress, obviously, but then rewear it in the future. Buy something more simplistic, less extravagant, or if you're into the extravagant, buy that and still rewear it. It doesn't have to be a single-use dress. And what you wear is a statement. So every dress counts. Your ecological impact is still big, no matter what you do with your grad dress. So it's important to not just have that bystander mindset of, oh, well, I'm not going to do it, but someone else out there is going to buy an environmentally conscious dress, and they're going to do all of that work for me, which is just not fair. And you shouldn't just be focused on your formal wear being environmentally good, but focus on all of your pieces being ethically sourced. It's not just a demonstration of your taste and what you'd like, but it's also linked to your values. Okay, so now we're getting into the interesting part. I know this is probably a little bit long, and I apologize, but I got really into this if you can't tell. So the next one is my capstone journey and sewing the actual dress. So I decided to make my own dress because I know exactly what I wanted in my grad dress. I wanted like a simpler silk piece, but I knew that nobody else made it because I found one of them on Pinterest that I really loved, but I know she got it like personally made, like she got it custom made. So I knew that there was never going to be a dress out like that out there. And I wanted something that was simple enough that I could rewear it, but still felt fancy enough, like I was wearing a grad dress. So I originally wanted to use no pattern and just kind of go for it, use different dresses that I already had to make something of my own. But I ended up buying not one, but two different patterns. One for the top, which is ruching. And so I needed a lot of help from my mom and my mentor, of course, on how to make that all sit properly so it didn't look gappy or unflattering. And then I had a second pattern for the skirt, which I wanted to be flowing but not quite cascading outwards. Combining the patterns was a bit of a problem because we wanted to elongate the midriff section to attach the ruching lower on my hips. So we used a lot of tissue paper, mock pieces to kind of fit that all together like a little puzzle. And then I also made a mock design of the bodice and midriff using a different kind of fabric than my actual grad dress fabric, sort of to see how everything was going to lay out and make sure that it was how I wanted it. My dress is made of a plum colored, this color of satin fabric. The thread that I use is the same color, and there's also lining fabric in the inside, and then there's also interfacing and boning along the bodice. So it was a really long process to sew the whole dress. I think it took me about 31 hours of prep and sewing. I made lots of mistakes along the way. There were lots of bits that we had to undo with the seam ripper, resew to make it all look good. There were a couple of pieces that we sewed on backwards, which was really humbling that we had to fix because all of the pieces had to fit so that there was nothing rubbing against my skin the whole time, which was the whole purpose of the lining, but was really hard to execute. We also had to change a couple of plans on the fly. Like I said, I didn't plan on using multiple patterns, and we also had to add a front seam into the top section of the bodice, which I wasn't ready for. So it didn't look like I had some weird bandage situation going on with the ruching. The last bit that I did was I ended up putting on the skirt. I had originally wanted to do a slit in the skirt, but that did not end up coming to fruition. I didn't finish my dress until May 31st, much to the dismay of my mom. It was quite stressful. We had some trouble with the ruching. We had to make it so it was laying right before we could attach the invisible zipper, which was also really hard. We had to go out and buy a special invisible zipper suit or foot for the sewing machine to make sure that it was all going to be attached. My mentor was really helpful for all of this. She helped with our how to hand sew it if we need to use that option as our last resort. Also just with what to do to make sure that all of the pieces fit together properly. So this is my dress. It was finally done after 7 months of not consistent work in any way. I did procrastinate with this a lot simply because I felt like it was such a big project that I needed a lot of time in between to take a breath and really reflect on it. But also I was just really, really busy with my dance competitions and other stuff that I was doing away from home. So it took a long time. My mom helped a lot, like I said. My mentor helped a lot. I know the photo in the PowerPoint is awful, but I will show you the dress at the end of the video, I promise. So grad dresses are more than just a moment. This is not really part of my capstone journey, but I want to mention this, that so many changes in fashion are made by young girls and they have the largest impact. So there's always so many kinds of chain effects that happen. Like I mentioned, the thrift store trend and micro trends that come into fashion are largely propagated by younger girls who really help to shape the environmental impact of the fashion industry into what it is now, and hopefully we get better. Prom and grad is only one day, but it seems like such a waste of an amazing dress if you don't reuse it at least once. I also found a few resources to deep dive into if you ever want to get into sewing. This is not for you personally, but I know that I might be using these in the future. So I found some YouTube channels and Instagram creators that focus on sewing and how to sew your own clothing, which I think is really interesting because then you get to kind of shape what you want by your own unique pieces that nobody else will have while still being environmentally conscious. And it's kind of fun. It's a fun project to do every once in a while. So these are just kind of the topics that I covered. I talked about dresses, ethically important sourcing, how to sew a grad dress, and some other resources for future projects. As my conclusion, there were a lot of challenges along the way, such as sewing pattern making, challenging with sewing, but I found a lot of good resources that were available. Thank you to the internet, and thank you to my mentor and my mother who knew a lot about sewing already, which was really helpful for me. It taught me a lot of things, like I have to trust the process of creation. Obviously, this was really hard, and there were lots of things that I probably could have done differently along the way, but it was nice to have this trial and error and kind of go with it as I wanted to. But kind of linked into that, I also taught me to not be too freaked out when something goes wrong and just try and focus on like problem solving and how to fix it. Okay, now my grad dress. Sorry. So this is the grad dress that I made. It's got like ruching down the front like this. And I'm actually gonna change the camera angle really quick. Hold on, sorry. So I added this like neck piece, and then it has ruching all down the midriff along with some drapery in the skirt. And yeah, that is my capstone presentation. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope I met all the criteria correctly. Thank you so much for listening.